Hello to everyone. I'm Maite Sarah Weitzman with Goya Foods, and I am honored and proud to be the speaker's sponsor. I've been sponsoring this incredible group of women for a few years, and I love what you do, and I'm honored to be here. Our first speaker is Valentina Bravo. Valentina Gomez Bravo is an award-winning, creative, multi-passionate professional and a businesswoman. She's an author, a speaker, a thought leader, and a change maker. She is dedicated to creating, transforming, and building strong brands. She is incredibly versatile, passionate, and at its fullest. She has over 18 years of experience in the advertising industry, working with incredible brands like Pepsi, Red Bull, Doritos, Gatorade, and Volkswagen. Valentina is on a mission to bring the big agency brand strategy, creativity, and growth everywhere, while also creating change in her community. Welcome, Valentina.
Good morning, everyone. So happy to be here. Thank you, Maite, for that amazing introduction. I can't wait to start talking with you about everything I have to share. We're going to be talking about branding. I'm going to be sharing a little bit about me, and I'm happy to see all those comments coming along. I danced this morning to Cari Beats, so I am ready to go, and I hope you guys are too. Thank you to Power and Heels for the invitation, and I can't wait to get started. So I would love to share my presentation with you. Thank you so much. So we're going to be talking about branding, which is my bread and butter and what I've been doing for a very long time. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of it all, I want to share a little bit about me. Like Maite said, I've been doing this for 18 years, but I'm originally from Venezuela. I lived in Argentina for a couple of years, and now I'm here in the United States. It's been almost 8 years here. I'm a complete nerd. If I could be a professional student, I would. I have several degrees. I love studying and learning about people, how they tick, how they work, who they are, and how that is connected to what I do in brand building and sharing experiences and helping entrepreneurs and businesses connect with the world. Throughout this 18 years of my career, I've been lucky enough to work on every angle of branding and brand building. I've been with the client, with the agency, with the creative team. I've been the entrepreneur. So that gives me a unique perspective where I have the privilege of combining my very rational brain with my very creative brain and sharing my heart and what I do with everyone. And I absolutely love what I do. Single, no kids, but this is Hershey. He's my puppy and the current love of my life. He always makes an appearance because I think the love for what we do and what we have in our lives is very important. Being a dog owner was not part of my brand. It is now. And talking more about my brand and how I built it and how you can too, I want to share a quick story about when I started my first business. I worked all these years in advertising. And when I decided to go on my own for the first time, it's not the same when I couldn't do the work for myself, right? So I started a dance studio back in Venezuela. That was my first business. I used to be a professional dancer. And when I started my dance studio, I worked with my business partner. So we were talking about what are we going to do? How are we going to brand this business? And that phase was my phase. That phase was all of our phases of what do we do with my first business? How do we make this the best thing ever? How do we make it authentic? How do we really create a brand that connects with our audiences? We had all the questions. We just needed all the answers. And of course, your first option is to hire a big agency to do advertising. It's where I came from. So to me, it was my first choice. I'll just go back to my former employer and hire them. But the reality is we could not afford them. Then we said, well, let's hire freelancers. I mean, I've done this work. I could lead a team of freelancers. But then I found out that a lot of the freelancers that I was coming across were really inexperienced and not what we were looking for. So I realized after a while that there was a gap in the market. And We ended up doing the work. It turned great. I've been dancing all my life. I had my studio for a few years, and then I had a terrible injury and I had to stop dancing. So I decided to go back to my love of advertising. And that is when I had this idea based on this experience where I couldn't afford what I really wanted, and what I could afford wasn't great. And I found this hole in the world where I could put my gifts to service. That's where the idea came from of creating Bunker 58, which is my branding agency. And it wasn't an easy choice. This started, like I said, back in Venezuela. That's where I opened my agency. But then the world, of course, threw me a loop and decided that my country was gonna get even more unstable and I needed to make a decision for my future. So that's when I decided to make the trip, make a very permanent trip from Venezuela to the United States. And I literally started over, which could be a very terrifying experience, but it could be also an experience filled with possibilities. Now, back home, people knew me. I had a career of many, many years. I had contacts. I had all the things that I needed to thrive with my business, which is what happened the first time around. But moving here, I was clueless. I knew no one. I had no contacts, no network. I had to completely translate my business from 100% Spanish to 100% English or bilingual. So it was really, really a challenge to build my brand in a country where I knew no one. So 10 years of experience with big brands taught me something. But now I can say that for the last 8 years, I've been extremely privileged to work with amazing local brands here in Houston and in other states here in the US that had given me the opportunity to work with them. And it's been 8 years of growth. It's been 8 years of lessons and 8 years of building a brand that today I am extremely honored to say is an award-winning brand. 8 years later, I not only get paid for my expertise in what I love to do, I also get recognized for it. And I would have never in a million years thought when I first got on that plane and decided to start over at 30, that this was going to be me a few years later. And this speaks to the power of building your brand. And that's what I want to talk to you guys today. We're going to talk about branding. So for a lot of people, when I say branding, this is what happens to their brain. Brand what? That's for Pepsi. That's for the Red Bulls of the world. That's for the big companies. I don't even have a company. I'm a professional. I have a 9-to-5 job. I'm just starting. I'm in school. I don't even know what I want to do with my life. Maybe you do have a business and you're an entrepreneur. It doesn't matter where you fall. Branding is a topic that you need to bring into center and pay attention to in your life. Because really, your brand is a set of expectations. It's the memories, it's that feeling, it's that connection and that story and relationship that you and your customers or you and your relationships or you and your network have. It's that decision to choose the product over and over again. It's that decision to choose that service or to choose that person over and over again over something else. If we want to be super, super straight to the point, your brand is your reputation. So we all have one, whether we want to or not. Your brand is literally what people say about you when you're not in the room. So that's why I always want to remind people that this is not only about being in business. This is also about how you portray yourself in the world. We all have that friend that's always late. And let me know in the chat if you have a friend that's always late, because I know I have a few. That is part of their brand. If you've ever found yourself telling them the party is 30 minutes earlier than it actually is, just so that you can make sure that they get there on time, then you are very aware that being late is part of their brand. If you have that friend that gives the best hugs, that's part of their brand. If you have that coworker that just dresses beautifully and you wish you could steal their closet, that's part of their brand. So we all have one, whether we realize it or not. So it's very important that we take control over the narrative and we decide how we want to be perceived. Now, as I've been mentioning, brands can be personal or commercial. We have a lot of entrepreneurs that have gone out into the world creating their personal brands. Influencers work on personal branding. And then we have companies and organizations that work more on a commercial brand. Now, why should we care about building a brand? I mean, why do I don't know, have a 9-to-5 job and this is the career that I love and that I chose and I'm not selling anything? Why should I care about a brand? Oh, I just started my business. We're super, super tiny. We're working out of our garage and I really don't see this, it's a hobby for now. I don't want to take over the world. I just want to help my people. Why should you care about having a brand? Because at the end of the day, we people buy people. That's how we make decisions. We don't really go to that hairdresser because she has the best hair dryer or the best shampoos. We love them and what they can do for us. We pick a lawyer more for the person that how they behave in the courtroom. Yes, we want their skills to be the best, but we do need to connect with the person that's providing that service, that's providing that product. And as humans, that's what we can connect to. That's what we recognize. We recognize the person behind the company. We recognize the person that's sitting on the other side of the call. We, at the end of the day, what we buy is people. And people, we need to connect because that is who we are. That is part of our nature. So we will always be looking for that thing that makes click with that thing on the other end so that we can have a successful transaction. Whether it's commercial transaction or it's a personal transaction. We need to give people reasons to choose us. Whether that is you're applying for a new job, you want to make sure that your professional brand is on point and that prospective employer just falls in love with you and has nothing to think about than just give you the job and probably give you a raise. We want to give people something else besides our skills to be a reason why they choose us, why they choose our product, why they choose to give money to our organization and not another one. It's extremely important because really business is extremely personal. I know we've heard growing up a million times, business is business. There's nothing personal about business. That is not the way the world works today. We do have pockets where that seems to be the premise, yes. But at the end of the day, deep down, business is more personal than ever. And you might be seeing this in the world out there with all these brands that have not really been doing things in a great way and have been suffering the consequences. Every time something happens in the community, the way brands respond, people didn't pay that much attention before, but they do now. And that has a direct consequence in how the business does. That's had direct consequences in how our careers go. If people believe and share your values as a company, as an organization, as a professional, they will stay with you because they connect with you on a deeper level. It's like when we're going on a date and we meet people that we want to create a relationship with. It takes a minute. We need to work to that point where we're in love. But once we're in love, we're set. Like it's really hard to break that trust. It's the same way. So when we build our brand, we want to be mindful that we connect in the best way possible to make sure that those clients or that network stays with us till the end of time. Now, how do we make this happen, right? Because all the theory is magical. Yes, we're taking all the notes. We know what we need to do. We want to connect with people. We need to build our brands. How do we do this, right? How do we make this happen? And like with a lot of things in the world, we need a plan. Winging it sometimes works, but it doesn't get the job done every time. So we want to make sure that we have a strategy, that we have a plan together, that we know exactly what we want people to think, how we want people to feel, and we're working towards making that happen. Now, when we think about brands, sometimes we might think about logos and websites and how somebody dresses and how somebody talks, which is great. All of that is part of it. But brand building is a 360 job. We want to make sure that what the brand looks like, what the brand sounds like, what the brand smells like, feels like, and even tastes like is on point. So let me know in the chat if you have a business, what kind of business do you have? If you're a professional, what kind of industry you're in, so I can give you some specific examples while we're here. But I'll give you an example, let's say, of a store. We go into the store, and of course, if the store is organized, we feel more compelled to buy more, stay longer, try on more things. Stores have music, which can be great sometimes, and sometimes it's just annoying and you want to leave. How the store smells. We all have that Pure One Imports or Kirkland smell. I don't know if everybody's been to those stores, but they have a very specific smell. Or when you go into a Bed Bath & Beyond, or you go to a Bath & Body Works, there's a very specific smell to that store. And when you go anywhere else and you smell the same thing, it automatically brings you back. So even the smells matter. When you go into a restaurant, you want it to smell amazing, not foul. How things feel, how couches feel when we're there, how the chairs feel, is it too cold, is it too hot? That is also important. And of course, if you're in the food industry or anything taste related, how things taste is crucial. So it's very important that when we think about branding, we think about all these things. So I want to do a little exercise, and I need you to get very active in the chat for this, okay? Because I can't hear you. I'm going to show you a few brands. We have these two that are rivals for life, right? They're direct competitors. We're all very familiar with them, but we all have a very specific preference. Some people are Adidas people, some people are Nike people. So let me know in the chat, out of these two, which one is your favorite and why? Because there is a very specific reason why we choose them. Even though they're very similar, the shoes might be built exactly the same, but there is a very specific choice that we make when we go out shopping. And that is a thing to have. Again, we connect to them mostly because of who they are or what they stand for or what they say. So some go for comfort, some go because the brand stands for something and I connect with that and I go with that. Some might say Adidas is more fashionable. Some might say Nike is more for performance. Either way, there is a reason beyond the technicalities of their products that would make us choose one over the other. Same with these two. We can argue the quality of the fries until we are blue in the face, but there is a reason why we go to one and why we go to the other. They sell the same products, they target two very different people. Yes. See, we're already getting our picks in the chat for these brands. They stand for different things, they talk to different people, they have different meanings. Same with these two. They are very, very similar. Some people might argue they even taste the same, and I'm not going to get into that. But there is a very specific reason why these are different and why we choose one over the other. One might be more towards family. One might be more towards teenagers, fun and adventure. What we connect with ends up making us make a choice. Same with these last two, which are, at the highlight and the peak of competition. And like a lot of people say, once you go MAC, you don't go back. That could be a thing. Some people choose performance. Some people choose what it means or the status that it brings. So there's always something that makes us make a choice that goes way beyond what the actual product is. And that's what I want you guys to really focus on. Because if I show you these two, as humans, because again, as people, we recognize people. Who would you say of these two men is Apple and which of these two men is Macintosh? Sorry, it's Windows. Who's Microsoft Windows and who's an Apple computer in this image? Are you able to tell the difference? And you probably are. I don't know if the comments are a little delayed. But I know there is a very big difference, and most people get this right then and there as to what makes what brand so visible. And this is it. This is part of the product. This is part of what branding looks like. They don't have to say anything. They don't need to have a sign. They don't need to have a logo. We just look at them and we know who's who. The young guy is Apple to the right. Yes. And if you've seen, this is a very, I'm not going to say old, but it's a very classic Apple campaign. And you can look it up on Google. It's very funny. But yes, we don't even have to talk about, they don't even have to say anything. We already associate one with the brand and another one with the other. And it's very, very obvious. Same with these people that we see here. You might know them all. Some you might not know them. We have Gary Vaynerchuk and Mary Forleo, which are internet sensations and entrepreneurs. Of course, we have Oprah. We have our friend from Virgin here. We have Ellen, and then we have our very own gallery furniture superstar. We know them, but we know them as more as what they sell. We know them as people. We connect with them on so many different levels beyond what they actually sell. And that's the power of branding. When you have a very solid brand that most people know, that has been consistent through the years, people get to know you for certain things. I'm sure you could define them with one word, and we would probably all agree with the same word, because they have been so clear in their messaging that we know what they're about. And that's what branding does. And as I always tell my clients and everybody I talk to, really, a business without a brand is like a person with no soul. You don't know who they are. You can't connect. You can't fall in love. So we need to make sure that our brand has soul. So how do we do this? And I'm going to give you 7 tips. The first thing that we need to do when building our brand is find that uniqueness. What separates us from everybody else? There is one thing that's uniquely yours, and that is not necessarily a product thing. That could be how you deliver the product or how you address that product. That unique point is going to give you an edge. We also have to be very clear. If we don't understand what we do, the rest of the people won't. And the reality is that confused people don't buy. So we want to make sure that whatever we put out there is crystal clear. If a 10-year-old can understand what you do, you're on the right track. If you need 10 minutes to explain it, then the message is not clear enough. If you've asked 10 people that have been working with you for a while and they still don't know, then we haven't done a really good job. So we have to make sure that we're crystal clear ourselves, and that when we share that message clearly to others as well. We need to be intentional about everything that surrounds our brand. The way that we dress. Let's say you're a personal brand and you want to portray yourself as a modern, edgy person that's fun, that's dynamic, that's always on the trends, that knows what's happening in the world. You might need to be having a look that portrays that, right? So the colors that you wear, how you wear your hair. And I'm sure you've all seen Yvette. Polka dots are her jam. Every time I see something polka dot now, I think of Yvette, whatever that could be, because that's part of her brand. And she's been very intentional about letting people know that is part of her brand. So being intentional about everything that we do matters. If we're going to be on time and we want punctuality to be part of our brand, then we need to be on time every single time. Everything we put out there has to be there for a reason. So intentionality is extremely important. We need to be cohesive with what we say. That is, walk the walk and talk the talk. Everything has to have the same message all around. Our website needs to portray the same thing that our social media does. And our social media has to portray the same thing we tell our clients in person. Everything has to be cohesive, the same message all around. And that leads us to being consistent every time without a fail. Does that mean we have to be perfect? No, but we need to tell the same story multiple times until that story sticks. We need to be authentic. And I know that's a buzzword and everybody talks about it, but not everybody really knows what it means. The way I see it, that means being who you are, because there's only one of you. So that way you can stay on task. Another thing about it is don't sell yourself as something that you're not. For example, I'm not a high heels person. I rarely wear heels. So you will rarely see photos of me with 6-inch heels, and because that's not who I am. Because if I would take all my pictures like that, and then when people see me in person, I'm in Converse, which what I usually wear, then it doesn't make sense. Already I'm not being truthful and authentic. And that's just a simple example of what I'm trying to say. Because the thing is, a lie can't stand till the end of time. So we want to make sure that whatever we put out there is the real us, is our real business, is our real mission and our real values, so that we can also be consistent and cohesive about it. And of course, be ready to adapt. We've had a lesson in that for a while. So we need to be ready to adapt at any moment and move on with the times and make sure that we can always stay on top of what needs to happen. And of course, have empathy, not only with our clients and the communities that we serve, but with ourselves as entrepreneurs or as professionals and brand builders. Your brand is your superpower. So whether you create a brand for your business or you create a brand for yourself, this is going to give you everything you need to move into the world confidently and create something that truly represents you. And all of this has to come from a plan. We want to make sure that we have a plan that we can execute and be sure that we can get together and be consistent with and move forward. So this is going to have to include at least 3 things, okay? Brand visuals, brand content, and the soul of your brand, which is the most important. Like I mentioned before, we have to be a 360. We have to do a 360 approach to our brand strategy. And that means our brand visuals, which would be part of the outside of our brand. If we think of our brand as a person, right? Our logo, our business cards, our packaging, our website, our social media, our storefront if we have one, the photos that we take, the marketing materials that we put out there, how our resume looks, how our website looks, how our LinkedIn profile is prepared. If we do emails, how we write our emails is also very important. Any promotional materials, we also need to take care of these and pay attention. Again, this is the outside, the how it looks to the world, right? We are really good at taking care of that as women for ourselves. So we need to make sure that our brand is also taken care of in this way. Now, the brand content is also an outside-facing component of our content, and that would be your website, your blog if you have one, your social media channels, your SEO strategy, your videos, your email marketing, your newsletters, your lead magnets, anything that you, again, your emails, please be mindful, your text messages, the way you talk to people on the phone. All that is content related, everything we put out there into the world is also part of our brand. And the most important part of brand building is the soul of your brand. Is your values, your mission, your vision, your customer journey, your customer experience. If you don't own a business, what is it like working with you? Are you a team person? Do you work with a team? How does your team work? What's the vibe, the tone, the feeling, the passion? That is what we end up loving the most. And that's what we end up picking for the rest of our shopping decisions or relationship decisions. So all of these things we need to take care of. And there's a simple framework that I want to share with you today that's going to help us walk through all of this in a very orderly fashion. So the first thing to design you or design your brand is to make a decision to start. And if you're here today, congrats. Check, we've done that. If you're here, you've already taken the first step to working on your brand, to learning, to growing, to opening your heart to new things. So that we got covered. Second step we need to take is evaluating where we are. We can't fix something we don't know. We can't make something better that we don't know how it stands today. So I invite you to do an evaluation. Where you are now, where you want to be. You can do emojis, you can do a list. If you're a spreadsheet person, do a spreadsheet. If you have a business, list everything. How's my logo? How's my website? How is my team doing? Do I need to hire more people? Do I have all my things in place? Happy face, face, or sad face? How am I doing with all my visuals? How am I doing with my content? Make a list. I love lists. Make a list and check where everything is at. That way we can make our to-do list or our roadmap on the things that we need to work on from that audit. That is going to give us a clear picture of the steps we need to take to get to where we want to go. Step 3 is to make sure our message is clear and streamlined on how to best sell ourselves. So we're going to answer the following questions. What am I doing or selling? Who am I or who am I as a business? Why do we do what we do? How do we do it? When do we come into play in people's lives? When are we important? When is our product the best for our audience? And then where? Where do we sell? Where do we stay? Where do we talk to people? Where do we connect? These messages, again, super clear. for a 10-year-old. It doesn't have to be fancy or complicated. It just has to be clear, because again, confused people don't buy. So we want to make sure that the story is easy to tell and easy to understand. Once we have that message, once we decide to start, once we know the things we need to fix, then we need to identify who we want to serve with this. Who is going to be the recipient of our magic? And that could be all kinds of people. You could go as niched and specific as you want, and that is where the magic happens. Be specific, be intentional. Remember those things we talked about before. Who can I serve the best? Who are going to connect with my message the most? And once we figure that out, then we get everything consistent. So I want to talk to these people. These are my magic powers. This is what I need to fix. Does everything match? Am I telling the same story everywhere? Am I being cohesive? Am I being consistent? Am I being authentic enough? Work on getting everything on point, because we don't want to be the odd. We want to be the odd one out for the good reasons, not the wrong reasons. We want to make sure that everything is in line, that people understand. We don't need a stranger in our message, because that's going to confuse our audience, okay? And once we have all our ducks in a row, then we just sit down, enjoy the ride, and nurture our people and serve from our hearts. Do what we do, which is what we really are here for. Now that we have a brand that truly represents us, that truly sells us in the best light, that truly helps you tell the story you want to tell, you are ready to do it freely and fully and passionately. Because the reality is there's only one of you. And you have something amazing to share. If you are here, you already won. There's only one of you that already won the race. So be ready to tell people why you and not somebody else. Be ready to tell your story, to be open, to be authentic, to speak from the heart. It's completely freeing, and people will see that and people will connect to it. Once you put your message out there, the people that resonate with it will find you. So if you're thinking about the branding world, what it means to you as a professional, as a student, as a working woman, as a homemaker, as an entrepreneur, if this is what you look like today, which is what I looked like a very long time ago, I want you to put all these things in place and feel like this for the future of your brand. So if you take a look at where you're now and you think, maybe a rebrand is in my future. Maybe a rebrand is in my cards. Hey, that rebrand could be changing your haircut, changing the way you dress, and getting a new job. That rebrand could be changing up your logo or your website. That rebrand can be changing your company culture. That rebrand can be going to your boss and saying, hey, we need to make a change. Do you have a plan in place? Start thinking about that. And I know this is the time of the year when we start taking accounts and making plans. So what's your plan? What's your brand strategy? There's never a perfect moment to do it, but there's always the right moment to do it. And the reality is Rome wasn't built in a day. So don't expect the perfect brand to be, because your brand will change as much as you do, because it's a living thing. And that's okay. That's part of the process. So we want an empire. We want the best out there. Let's start working at it. It's not going to be done in a day, but we have to start somewhere. You got this. If you're here, you've already done a part of it. I believe in you. So your first step was taking today. What are you going to do next? If you need any help, you have any questions, or you just want to chat, this is my contact information. I thank you all so much for your time today. It's been an honor and a pleasure, and I send you a huge hug. Have a great rest of your weekend. I love you all.